Order, if we could have the roll, please.
Mr. Long?
Yes.
Mr. Matheson?
Yes.
Mr. Payne?
Here.
Ms. Reese?
Here.
Mr. Carlson?
Here.
Ms. Patterson?
Okay, we're going to stand for a moment of silence, and then I'm going to ask our student board member, Lauren, if she'll lead us in the pledge. Lauren?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And Lauren, we do appreciate you being here and appreciate what you're doing for the board. Not all boards have student board members, but we do appreciate Lauren. Okay, the next item is visitors or delegations, and we have one, Mr. Thompson, to talk about the multi-year contract.
Are you ready?
We're ready.
You know, man, let's see, Gary's got it up. But the snake oil salesman came through Johnson County years ago and sold us on the idea, if we give up our right to vote for the director of schools or superintendent, it would benefit. Okay, so we voted, and we give up that right to vote. Okay. And when you vote for someone to be hired or fired, you know as well as I do, you can vote for them for any or no reason, or against them for any or no reason. But when you start hiring and getting into contracts and getting all these organizations, and you can't do this because it, you know what I'm talking about, contracts. Like, was it Sullivan County a few years ago? The guy had the job in Sullivan County, and they found out somehow he turned in a false record, and they fired him, and still paid him. You know what I'm saying? You know, which taxpayers' money, which to me that's waste. I mean, so anyway, it's come to my attention that the contract, length for the director of schools will be 3 years this period. And I want to introduce some contract stipulations I believe will benefit the citizens of Johnson County. Some or all of these stipulations may already be in the contract. If so, I stand corrected. You know, which I haven't seen the contract. But there's usually two parties in contract. Okay. And in this instance, it'd be Dr. Simcox would be one party. Well, Johnson County taxpayers and citizens would be the other party, right?
Yep.
Right? Mm-hmm. So y'all represent the citizens and taxpayers of Johnson County. You're my representative, right? So I want to try to ensure it'll be fair and equitable for everyone, okay? So in order to avoid any laxation in duties with the security of a 3-year contract, the board shall add into the director of schools multi-year contract certain stipulations that will automatically cause a yearly review of said contract and give the school board the legal right to terminate the multi-year contract without any penalty, monetary or otherwise, to the Johnson County school system, school board, or any individual. Now these just suggestions, okay? So nobody get their drawers in a wad. These just suggestions. Each duty specified in contract shall be reviewed yearly for performance. Any audit finding shall result in immediate cause to terminate contract without penalty. Director has continuously shown inability to manage all school departments, especially the Department of Transportation, resulting in the loss of thousands of dollars. Termination of contract shall be based on any inadequacies of duties as set forth in contract. Any audit findings that reveal a loss of any monetary amount or questionable activity by any school employee or employees shall reflect on the director of schools and make the contract with the director reviewable and avoidable. You know, because the contractors top, or the directors at top of the pyramid, the buck stops there, right? The buck stops there. There shall be no provisions for early retirements, severance pay or package, or any other type of compensation for the negligence of duties found by the auditors on any school board member that results in the legal termination of contract. Contract shall be reviewed yearly based on audit findings of past year within 30 days of audit being released for review. Any findings, monetary or otherwise, will be cause for termination of contract. Any school board members may call for a contract review after learning of any inadequacies of duties or audit findings without any personal, professional persecution or retaliation. So like I said, I won't be looking at contracting and signing for me. Y'all will, okay? So make it fair and equitable to everybody. That's all I'm asking to consider. Thank you.
Appreciate that. All right, next item, I'm gonna move at agenda item number 6 to be considered next. We've worked with TSBA to make sure that our contract proceedings meet all the laws and everything else. And TSBA has informed us that when we consider a contract, it has to be the first item that we vote on. So we'll move it above the consent agenda. All right, and Lauren, we'll get to you in just a second. You're down below the consent agenda, and I had to move it up, so we'll come back to you. All right, so the next item that we're going to consider then is the approval of Director of Schools contract. The changes in the contract, as we talked about in our work session, are that we're recommending, or the contract would be for, not recommending, the contract would be for a period of 3 years, and this would commence on the first day of July 2021 and end on the 30th day of June 2024. The current contract is valid until the end of this school year. This contract would begin at the end of the current contract. The second thing that we've added into here is that compensation, the board shall pay the director annual compensation based on the BEP funds specified for the director of schools that funnel through the state to the county in 12 equal monthly installments. And as we talked about in our work session, the state of Tennessee, it's taxpayers' dollars because everything the state of Tennessee gives us is taxpayers' dollars. However, the state of Tennessee pays through BEP funds for the director of schools. That does not come out of the GP from the county. The way they base that is based on the student enrollment in the school system. And all the other directors of schools, not that we have to follow that, and obviously we haven't, but that money that the BEP pays is what pays the salary of the director of schools. What's happened in Johnson County is we funneled off some of those BEP funds and basically put it in our general funds to use. Now, as we proceed, and just so that we can have a good discussion, the next item in this contract I'd suggest that we remove. And this is along with compensation. And I think this just got left in because it was part of the old contract. The part that I'm recommending us to remove is, it says the board will review the director's annual salary and the board will consider increasing that salary during the term of the contract each time an annual evaluation reflects that the director has met or exceeded the expectations of the board. So we need to remove that because this salary isn't going to be determined by us, it's determined by BEP. Now, the other thing that, just for everybody's information, and correct me if I'm wrong, Tina, is that with the BEP funds, the director will no longer be subject to raises as we give teachers. So if we give our staff, like this year was 2%, if we give our staff 2%, the director would be exempt from that.
Yes, sir.
Her funds would simply come from whatever the state determines
Yes.
that she should get based on student enrollment.
Based on what the state says, BEP superintendent salary.
Right. So she would be not considered in any of those raises in the future. One of the other things that is in here that I asked Tina if she would to make for us is the travel allowance. And a very good question came up on the travel allowance. We give a $6,000 travel allowance. What is that used for? And Tina has broken it down for us. We placed this in the contract a number of years ago. It used to be that they had to turn in travel. We basically tried to look at what kind of travel they were doing and how much that would pay by mileage, so that if she does more, and this year, of course, with virtual, she's probably done a little less, but if she does more, she doesn't get any more, that comes out of her pocket. The one thing in here in the contract, it does talk about any out-of-town travel, like if she has to go to Nashville. But again, like for us to be of the understanding that Knoxville is included on here. And Knoxville, she is included in this travel allowance, and she would, and ETSU in Johnson City, she would not get additional dollars for those out of town. So we may need to see how we could word that to firm that up. And the last thing that I want to bring up, and Mr. Thompson, this may address, I'm bringing it up because it may address your comment. Contract termination. Contract termination for cause. So in here is a clause that says that employment can be terminated by the board for cause on sufficient proof of improper conduct, inefficient service, or neglect of duty. If the board terminates this contract for cause, the director would be entitled to no further benefits or compensation. So if, now, you know, the issue of audits, you're never going to get an audit that doesn't show something. I've been through audits for years. If that comes back to the director's direct actions, that would be gross misconduct, and that would be cause for us to terminate the contract with no additional funds. So that kind of addresses what you're talking about. So let's open it for discussion. We've had the work session. I'm sure we've all heard from plenty of people in town.
All right, I have a question. What's the reason going from 1 year contract to a 3-year contract?
Well, we talked about that in the work session. I thought that they gave a pretty good explanation.
I asked you, what was the reason from a 1 year contract to a 3?
Well, let me then remind you what we talked about last week.
Okay, let's
That we
hear
all
it.
heard.
Let's hear it.
And that is to provide some stability to our system. We did the 1 year contract only because we started late in the year and coronavirus shut our schools down. So we decided last year that we would just go 1 year and get over that and then discuss this further. So
So you think adding 2 more years to it will add stability to it?
yes,
Explain how.
I just did.
One is, if you'll look across the room here, you've got a lot of good employees sitting out there. And this 1 year contract, number one, means we don't have confidence in the superintendent. I think given that 3 year contract will help her as well as her supervisors, our principals, our bus garage people, realize that we have confidence in the people we have in place. So let's do the 3 years and put some stability in there and ease the minds of our employees.
If they're that insecure, then I feel sorry for them, you know. I've worked under generals and colonels that I've only spent a year with, and I had stability there.
Yep.
Do we need to fix the contract before we vote on it, or what do we need to do that?
That would
I
be
think those
yeah.
amendments that he has put in there will go in the minutes.
Right. So why don't we, so we can kind of have a little bit of order to it, can we remove this statement beginning with, it's on page 2, it says, "The board will review the director's annual salary annually and the board will consider increasing the salary during the term of this contract at each time an annual evaluation reflects that the director has met or exceeded the expectations of the board. So can we agree that that comes out of there, or when we do this contract, that comes out?
I
the
think
motion
there's
would
not
be
really
on.
a motion on the table yet, so whatever
Right.
is put
Whatever
out
we need
there,
to take out to, yeah. That's
yeah,
fine.
we'll go on the motion in a
Need
minute.
to ever have, we need to,
Well, I'd like to make a motion on something.
Okay,
Since we're going on a 3-year contract, why don't we open this up for other people to come in and interview for this job?
okay, Mr. Masson's made a motion, is there a second? Okay, there's not a second, so that motion died.
So we'll let the taxpayers see what happened here.
Okay, so do we have, I guess, first of all, let's see if we have a motion, and then we'll fix this contract.
What kind of motion we gonna make?
approve the director of schools.
Approve this
Contract.
contract
Oh,
with,
with
and
the
then with the
additions and
removal of.
corrections. Well, can I ask a question?
Mhm.
I know we're saying this BEP funds, okay. If, let's say that the governor says 2% increase, is that with the director, or is that separate
I don't
from the
think it is.
teachers?
The BEP funds for the director are simply based on student enrollment.
Okay, so if he gives an increase, it's just gonna be for the
It's just-
certified teachers, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay,
She doesn't get any raises. She just simply based on our student enrollment
Okay.
with the BEP funds.
okay,
And that's determined by the state, not the board.
okay. Well, I mean, you know, he's proposed that, and I
Right.
just, that's just something that I didn't see in there, so I
Right.
just wanted
She
to
would not
ask
be
that.
eligible for those, under this contract, she would not be eligible.
Okay,
So I'll make a motion to approve the contract for the director of schools.
What about this stipulation?
With,
Well, remove the stipulations and the duty adjustments that we have spoken about.
Okay. So we have a motion, do we have a second?
so those, so let's get this straight here. So it's presented in the minutes with removal of that stipulation and the compensation, right?
Correct.
What else was you changing?
The other
That's
one
it?
was the out-of-town, that we include Knoxville and Johnson City, because that is included in this travel allowance.
Can you-
Current
can you-
contract says out-of-town travel, and what we'll put in is for actual travel in town to Johnson City and to, can you get in this, Maureen? And to Knoxville,
far as-
because that's already covered.
What do you think below Knoxville?
Yeah, if she had to go to Nashville, that would be different.
Okay.
Okay, so she'll get paid mileage, anything past Knoxville.
Right.
Understood, okay.
She's covered to that far.
She's covered to Knoxville.
Right.
So anything past Knoxville, we'll pay mileage on.
Correct.
Okay, I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a second. Now, we still have room for discussion.
I guess it would be all right. Did we address all your concerns, Mr. Thompson? In that, okay, I tried to make notes here. From what we explained, did that explain to you the contract and,
My major concern, like what I told him,
Yeah.
yeah, understood. That's a good concern to have.
but he walked away with a big chunk of change.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all that's my major. I don't call it, the state does not give us money. The state gives our money back to us.
Correct.
Okay?
You're right.
Okay?
That's
And I
right.
always look at, it's tax dollars.
Yeah.
Okay, the state's not paying travel, taxpayer is. The guy getting up, used to ride down the mountain to Lenore and working these fields and these farmers and stuff, that's where the money comes from. You know, the state has said, we're gonna give you a grant, but we're gonna use her money. Okay, that's like me, you give me your credit card and I'll give somebody a grant. You understand?
Yeah, I understand.
listen, I'm old school, firm, fair, and consistent. I mean, okay? Firm, fair, and consistent. I have no problem with that. And it don't matter if I'm on the top or the bottom, you know.
Okay.
But, one other, can I just say, one thing I like, just crossed my mind. You know, the CDC has stated that school children do not communicate COVID bad, if any. They don't have a real bad reaction to it. They get over it good. Their survivability is real great. How long have we been going to school? Since
August?
when?
Since August?
Okay. Have we had any child in school had a serious reaction or death from COVID?
No.
All right, now here we go. Seniors, this prom's getting ready to come up. And then you've got the graduation. So can we start looking to give these kids their proms and their graduations? You know what I'm saying?
We've already had those discussions.
Okay. I'm just,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying?
No. We want them to be as normal as possible.
So just get, you know, unless things change, if things change, things change. Because right now, the CDC says put them in school. Teachers even said we want more money.
Yeah, thank goodness we don't have that problem.
Amen.
They need
But,
to call Johnson County and find out what we're doing.
Yeah, I see these problems on TV, and then I look at what Johnson County's done and our director and the leadership she's shown. It's kept our kids in school, because you look even at Kingsport, Johnson City, they went hybrid. They've been closed down, and that's not working.
I had the privilege, when y'all were doing distant learning, okay, of working with Izzy, my granddaughter. Okay. It wasn't that good.
We had a lot to learn, didn't we? I agree with you.
It's very
You're
hard.
not that good of a teacher.
And and anyways, when y'all went on snow days, you know, we went to instant learning for pretty strong. Because she was up at her house by herself, there wasn't nobody supervised. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, we learned a lot.
I am I'm proud and tell anybody, look at Johnson County, our kids are going to school. And that's what's important to you.
Yep.
So let's go back to this contract. We have a motion, we have a second. Is there any more comment? Call the roll.
Mr. Long?
Yes.
Mr. Matheson?
Now, what are we voting on?
On this motion on the contract, we're voting on the contract.
On her contract?
Yes.
No.
Mr. Payne?
Yes.
Ms. Reese?
Yes.
Mr. Carlton?
Yes. All right, and we'll make those changes and get that contract signed. Congratulations, Dr. Simcox, and I know for the department heads who have spoken up, and for a lot of the teachers and principals, at least we know where we're going, and we want to keep moving forward.
Well, I just want to say thank you very much. I appreciate your confidence, and continue to serve you proudly. Thank you.
All right. Sorry, Lauren, we skipped you. You want to go ahead and give your report now?
Yeah. Happy February. March 2nd is the junior ACT testing date, so take it from a senior to get as much sleep as possible as the night before. Our robotics teams competed this past weekend and came home with the Excellence Award, Tournament Champions, Skills Champions, and Judges Award. Team 63303B is qualified for SAFES, though it's virtual. We are proud of our HOSA students who competed virtually in the 2021 HOSA Upper East Regional Leadership Conference and represented our school by placing in top ranks. If anyone is interested in participating in CLUE on stage presented by the JCHS Drama Department, contact Mr. Eggers for more details. Seniors, don't forget to apply for local scholarships as they open today. Spring is soon to come, and as midterms loom over us, we are proud of all of our students.
Thank you. How's school going?
It's going good. A little stressful. Yeah.
Well, that's great. I know I've been listening, and you can't help but see it on TV, and they were talking this morning, I think it was, on Fox News, talking about students and not being in school and not having sports, and nothing was normal, and had a lot of students on there talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
We're proud that we can do that and talk about proms and have graduations and have sports and things like that. It's not always been easy. It's not been an easy decision for anybody, but I really greatly admire the school administration and teachers and staff and the students, because y'all have made this succeed. I noticed today's report, we had one person who has COVID, and that was a staff member. No students, and only, 14, I think, quarantined?
I think 14 quarantined. Our numbers are great right now.
Mario Cuomo and all that bunch needs to call down Johnson County.
Yes,
All right. Next item's a consent agenda. Back on track here. Want to look through the consent agenda, if there's anything you want pulled off. If not, if we can have a motion.
I'll make a motion, we approve the consent agenda.
Okay, so we've got a motion and a second. Mr. Long seconds that. All right, if you would call the roll.
Mr. Long?
Yes.
Mr. Matheson?
Yes,
Mr. Payne?
Yes.
Ms. Reese?
Yes.
Mr. Carlton?
Yes. All right, the next item is the first reading of TSBA recommended policy changes on the following policies. One is fundraising activities, which is one that we've got to pay close attention to based on our last audit. Sick leave, family and medical leave, interrogations and searches, and special education students. If you could, Dr. Simcox, explain each one of those that has changes in it.
Yes, policy 2.601, that's actually a new policy for us. We actually follow guidelines set up by finance that account for this, but we thought, when Tina and I looked at this policy that TSBA was recommending, we thought it would be a good policy for us to have as well. It's just a policy that says if employees are raising funds for non-educational purposes, for example, our sports teams, they raise funds, that we have to have a policy that says that our district allows this type of fundraising. So those all have to come through and be approved anyway, but now we have a specific board policy that states that. 5.302 sick leave, we had to remove an item that was talking about sick leave for maternity purposes may be taken during the period of physical disability only, but to be in compliance with the law, we had to change that because that is no longer the case in state law. So they're eligible for maternity purposes. Family and Medical Leave Act, which is 5.305, this just updated the version of FMLA leave and just made it more clearer to understand, stating that teachers may use up to 30 days of accumulated sick leave if they have it. 6.303, interrogations and searches. This is just a policy that follows the language that state and federal guidelines regarding searches, which our SROs do. I think we went out in the hallway. So that just makes us up to date with that. And 6.500 just is a policy for special ed students that allows us to restrain and isolate with additional information that aligns with the state law, which we have to do, and our teachers are trained for that.
Okay, anybody have any questions of those? That's the first reading, so we'll move on. All right, we have the 5-year plan discussion. States that we will strive to increase our average ACT composite score to 21. Additional ACT preparation support will be provided for the student.
Yes, I'm going to talk a little bit about it, and then I'll turn it over to Dr. Long. We have a focus of ACT, especially at the high school. One of our focuses now is going to be K-12 with ACT. I don't think you can start too young talking about ACT. We did put a lot of things in place last year that we were hoping would help, and then COVID hit. So some of the things we were putting in place, we didn't get to see if they actually fully worked last year. This year, we're taking ACT back down to the 6th grade, and we're going to do a pre-ACT for all of our 6th and 8th graders that we used to do in the past, and we saw positive trends for that. But Dr. Long is going to talk a little bit more specific about some of the programs because he's very passionate about ACT. So he could talk all day, and I said, you have 2 minutes.
Really cap my time here, so I better not waste any more of it. But in brief, it is a focus. If I'm being completely honest with you, it's more of a focus than I wish it was, but it comes down to post-secondary opportunities and money for our kids. And so we would be doing them a disservice if we didn't focus on it. One of the things we've done, we've partnered with a program that Dr. Simcox encountered at a superintendent's meeting a year or so ago called Jumpstart Test Prep. We started that immediately after Christmas break. It's for juniors, and we are going through them with that as we speak. And it takes them through, and it's just a review and a refresher, and they should finish right about the time we take the ACT, and hopefully we'll see positive results from that. As she mentioned, years ago, we used to give the Explorer, which was an 8th grade ACT, and the Plan, which was a 10th grade ACT. They discontinued those, but then gradually they replaced them. They replaced the Explorer with what they call the pre-ACT 8-9, and they replaced the Plan with the regular pre-ACT. So we are giving that pre-ACT 8-9 in 6th and 8th grade. So we'll know from 6th grade up how the students are tracking. And then we give the pre-ACT to sophomores. We then take that sophomore pre-ACT data and use it throughout the first parts of their junior year. So if I'm a junior and they see that I struggled on these portions of the test, during what we call skinny block, certain selected teachers will pull me out with others who had the same struggles and go over just that information with me, because there's no reason for me to review the whole thing if I only need help with this. So we're getting real specific with our data. And then the other thing we're doing is, you know, we've said for years that we want to take an ACT focus, and we meant it. But when it comes time to give end of course TCAP tests, it's hard not to focus on those. And what the state's done is they've sort of moved not all, but they moved 2 junior tests and did away with them. They did away with English 3 and chemistry. And so a lot of times their junior year, they didn't have a very rigorous schedule. But yet we still had them taking the pre-ACT or the ACT test in the spring of their junior year. So we're looking hard at junior class selection, just so that our students are still challenged and really engaged all throughout their junior year, so that when they get to that point in March, that they're as ready as they can be. So all of those things in combination, and there's other things, we're all the time looking for opportunities to improve that.
How do you think you're gonna do this year with the issues that have gone on with COVID?
That's a very fair question. We gave them, last spring, the juniors were set to test on March the 17th. Our last day of school was March the 16th. So what normally, and they still called it the senior retake day, what normally was a true retake day was their first taking in October. And the scores did decline some, but that was to be expected. And we also administered the pre-ACT to this year's juniors who should have taken it last year. And so now we've got good data. They just took the pre-ACT last fall. They're going through this Jumpstart test prep program from the end of Christmas break now up through March. So we will have really good data from where they went from fall to spring, having gone through that test prep program. So we are expecting to see a jump with the juniors.
So if a student had difficulty in math, then you're gonna pull them out and work with them on math prior to the ACT?
That was our plan for this year. We crafted that plan last spring. COVID and schedule changes and having to get certain teachers to do virtual sort of nixed that. That's our plan moving forward into next year. I want to be transparent as I can be with you. That part of the plan has not really happened yet.
So this year, you're probably gonna expect that the scores are not gonna be where you hoped they would be?
They're not going to be at a 21, no sir. Our measuring stick, what I'm really hanging my hat on, is what I just mentioned a moment ago. The juniors took the pre-ACT back in the fall, and they'll take the real ACT next month, in about a month, March the 16th, they'll take it. But in between, they will have went through this test prep program. So what I'm looking for is a good jump on their composite average. That's apples to apples. They took it in the fall, they're taking it in the spring. We did some work in between. I want to see them come up from there. So if they make a 1.5 point jump on average or something like that, or even a 1 point jump, that would be big improvement. The ACT generally improves tenths of a point at a time. So when you jump a point or more, that's good growth. So we'll see. We'll know in a few weeks.
Anybody have any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, the next item is the educational legislative update.
Yes, I just wanted to give you a little bit of a glimpse of the legislative bills. There's a lot of information. Lots. I know Kevin went to the TSBA thing, and you probably heard a lot more than I'm going to be sharing, because I'm just doing a little snippet of what's going on with the educational update. There's 4 main bills that really impact education that was done during the special session. The first one is the testing and accountability bill, and what this does is going to hold harmless for educators and students for the current school year. We will be testing. Testing will occur this school year, but their scores will not count unless they help a student. We just got our fall EOC scores back from the high school, had some great areas of positive, some growth going on. So if they're going to help a student, their grades, that score will count, but we will not let it hurt any student or educator. It also holds districts and schools harmless if 80% of students take the TN Ready test. What does that mean? What that means is, we're supposed to be getting letter grades. We didn't get one last year because we didn't test. So if we test at least 80% of our students, which we will, then we're held harmless and they won't give us a score on that. If we do not test 80%, we're automatically made into a priority school, but we're not going to worry about that because we're going to test 80. Dr. Long has assured me we're going to test 80% of our students.
What numbers do you normally test?
We were above 80% in the fall.
Normally it's at 95%.
Oh, okay.
So.
Okay.
And it does exclude the data from being used on teacher evaluations. So that is the accountability bill. And that, again, that's just a glimpse of the accountability bill. This is the huge bill that everybody's sort of talking about right now, and there's 3 major components to it. The first part is the learning loss bill, which is the summer learning camp, which goes into effect this summer and next summer. There's 2 parts to it. It's for students entering 1st through 5th grade next year, so it would be this year's kindergarten and 4th graders. They will have to attend a 6-week camp. That will be at Mountain City Elementary. We feel like we got to have a centralized location because we will be providing transportation, and Mountain City is the most centralized location for us. Students entering 6th through 8th will attend a 4-week camp, and that will be at Johnson County Middle School. We have a call tomorrow with our principals to go through some areas of logistic with this and dates and what that's going to entail. We're looking at starting, I don't have my notes with me, I think it was June the 7th off the top of my head, and then the 6-week camp would go till July, I think it was the 16th, somewhere around there. We do have...
What's this for? What students?
I'll get to that.
Okay.
This is a 6-hour-a-day camp. Again, we have legislators making bills that don't really understand how the education works. But what they have mandated is it's a 6-hour-a-day camp, which will include 2 hours of math, which we're going to make ours, I think, an hour and a half of math. We can have it anywhere from 1 to 2 hours. 2 hours of reading, an hour of RTI, which is intervention, and then an hour of PE and play. That will occur 5 days a week. Breakfast, snack, and lunch will be provided, and also transportation will be provided. We can do a waiver, and we will do a waiver once they get those out and request that we only do 4 days a week. So if they approve that waiver, we would go Monday through Thursday, 9 to 3, if they allow that.
That's good.
Roberts, there we go. And I'll get to your question in just a minute, Mr. Payne. But what is also entailed with that is an hour STREAM camp. What is STREAM? It is science, technology, reading, engineering, arts, and math. Now this will just be at the 6-week camp for students entering 1st and 5th grade, and it will be a 1-hour program held after the 6-hour learning camp, and it will be 4 days a week. And it's just a way to get some more enrichment type activities to those kids that want to be involved in that. In the summer of 2023 and after, we have to provide a 4-week camp to students entering 4th through 8th grade with the same format. So from here on out, the legislators are saying we have to have summer camp for our students. And that just sort of gives you a little picture, and I know that was in your all's packet, of sort of what that looks like, because it is very confusing, because you're talking about learning loss bridge camps, summer camps, and it gets a little bit confusing, so I provided you with that. But who is eligible? Students who score below proficient in math or reading on their most recent state test or state-approved screener. What we're going to use is our March benchmark scores, because if we wait until we get the TN Ready scores back, that'll be the middle of June. That's too late to notify parents. We're not going to do that. So we have our next benchmark assessment in March. So what we'll do is look at those students who score below proficient in math and reading. Students who attend a school where less than 50% of students are proficient in math and reading can automatically attend. This is optional, but the district can adopt a policy that requires participation, but right now it is optional. And we can offer additional seats to non-priority students if they are available. Because, you know, one of the things we want to look at is for those kids that are failing.
Now, does it have to be math and reading, or can it be either or?
Yeah, math or reading.
Okay.
Math or reading. We are going to, for 6th, 7th, and 8th, we're going to limit to 20 students, and then 1st through 5th, 30. I think we took it down to 30, didn't we? 30 students.
So this is optional.
This is optional, yes. Funding, how are we funding this? The state is providing funding for this. It's fully funded on a ratio of 1 to 20. What that means is you'll have one teacher per 20 students. It covers 45% of our K-8 students. We've already got our allocation, so we know exactly how much can be spent. We have to, as a minimum, provide a $1,000 teaching stipend a week to all teachers that participate. We do feel confident we're going to be able to provide a little bit more to, you know, entice our teachers to want to do this. It has to be a certified teacher, and they have to be endorsed in that area to be able to do this. And again, we can request a waiver if we want to hold off on the number of days limited.
That money come out of our funds?
This all comes from the state. It's fully funded from the state.
Okay.
Then, again, this is a huge bill. Then, starting in the 2022-23 school year, 3rd grade students can only be promoted if they receive on-track or mastered on the ELA portion of the TCAP. This is huge, because this means if you don't score that, then you will be retained. But there's reasons that you could sort of, I guess, be promoted. They can do the following to be promoted. They can retest over the summer and score at a proficient level. They can attend the summer camp, but they have to be there at least 90% of the time. They can show growth, and they can have a tutor the following year. If they meet all these requirements, then they can be promoted to the 4th grade. But they have to show adequate growth in the 4th grade to be promoted onto the 5th grade. But that doesn't occur until the summer of 2022. Any questions on that? I know it's a lot of information, but I just wanted to hit the highlights.
So do you anticipate that you'll have enough spaces for the children who are not proficient to be able to get in it? So if I have a child and they're not proficient in math, I'm not going to come and say, I want to go to summer camp, and you say, I'm sorry, all the slots are filled.
No, we will find a slot. I mean,
you'll
add more positions.
if we need to.
We will see the later home every student that falls into that category.
So you'll
If
take
we
care of
get-
everyone.
Yes.
If we get a lot more back, that's just our plan currently. Like, if there is a much larger demand for that, then we will add that. And we also have ESSER funds set aside to be able to fund that if the state funds do not cover it.
Because they're not going to allow us to have more than 20 students with one teacher.
Right.
But we can go above and beyond.
Okay, just as long as there's enough
Yes.
for every student who needs it
There
and
is.
wants it.
There is.
Is that because of COVID, or is that gonna be, for everything now?
No, that's the ratio the state states. That doesn't have anything to do with
Say
COVID.
again?
That's the ratio that the state
I'm
sets.
talking about the whole,
Oh, summer
Yeah.
stuff.
Oh, the
Yeah,
summer-
it's learning loss. That's
Yeah,
what's got
learning
it
loss.
started.
That's
Yes,
what got it started.
because of COVID.
But it's gonna be a long, looks like they're wanting to do it from now on,
Yes.
learning, which is
Until-
good.
Until they change the bill. This will be here for a while.
Yeah, it's a bill. They've sent it down the House, both has down
Yeah.
there.
And that brings me to this question, you know, we've got good legislatures. I have a lot of confidence in Lundberg and Scotty Campbell and even Diana Harshbarger, but none of those guys are educators,
Right.
as you said, and not many board members have ever been educators. So what, in the educator's eyes here, and anybody here can speak, what needs to be modified to this? What can we ask for that will make this even better?
Well, I actually got a call today about 4:30, asking if I will come to Nashville next Wednesday to speak to the Senate Education Committee. They've invited 20 superintendents across the state, and they've asked if I'll represent Upper East Tennessee, so we can talk about these same issues. So I do
aren't you?
appreciate them letting us do that.
You going?
Oh, yes, I'm going.
Okay. Well, what can we do as board members? Ask our senators and representatives, say, listen, we need to look at this.
Yes, just call
'Cause
your
the more
call our
noise-
representatives.
Well,
Yeah,
this
the
is
more
already
noise we
approved,
make,
isn't it?
the
Yeah,
better.
but they are working on amendments to it, so that's what our hope is, that they will sort of back off a little bit with some of the language.
What are those things that we can ask for, is what I'm asking?
I guess just ask educators. That's the first and foremost. Ask educators what they think of these bills before they,
You can ask for anything.
yeah. No, but I mean, really,
No, I mean,
that's
I'm-
about,
Yeah, I understand, yeah. But the more noise, you know how it is, they make more money than board members, so they tend to listen better. But,
Who does? Who tends to listen?
well, not anybody anymore. But, I guess you brought my train of thought. What I'm saying, what we can call John Lundberg and Scotty Campbell and say, listen, this needs to be, considered in this bill. Would you consider adding this amendment? So I would like to invite teachers and supervisors and everybody to, let us know what we can ask for. 'Cause I
or
don't know
they can
what,
call too.
huh?
They can call too. I mean, they're a
Yeah,
great
they
voice to
can.
call.
And the more people that call, the more times you hear the same thing over and over and over.
Yeah, but, yeah, the five of you are gonna have just a little bit more clout than me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, we got
You
our
have some
clout.
good- Yeah,
Because she's gonna be the one, and
On the
and
Senate.
she's got a pretty good,
yeah.
okay, go ahead.
Believe it or not, I listen to you, Charlie, I do.
The third bill is the literacy bill. We knew this bill was coming, and this is really a good bill. It's going to be a phonics-based approach to increase literacy in grades K-3. The main thing about it is the districts will administer a universal reading screener. We already do that. We have to submit our plans, which we do. And current teachers in grades K-5 must complete at least one professional development course on foundational literacy. So this is a really good bill. And then the last one is teacher pay. And in his statement, 2%, what he did to the BEP instructional component was he added 2% that was retroactive from January the 1st through June 30th. We actually already have that allocation. It's not really a lot when you think of 2%. And again, it only goes for certified personnel. He has stated an additional 2% to the BEP for July 1st through June 30th of next year. But again, it's important to remember that a 2% increase is not equivalent to a 2% salary increase for all teachers. And that BEP positions that are funded by the state, we currently have 149 certified positions, but we have 198 that are actually teaching. So we have 49 above what BEP funds. And that's a problem across the state. So it really needs to be fully funded based on what you have. So that's a conversation that BEP Advisory Committee is trying to work on.
And that's one of the things you'll probably mention when you go to the legislature.
Yes, yes. And then that's just a highlight.
All right, thank you. All right, the next item is approve the proposed school calendar for Johnson County Schools for the 2022-2023 school year.
Yes, and if you remember, we're 2 years out on our calendar, which I know that parents really, really appreciate. We had 3 drafts, and I copied you all in what we sent out to the teachers. When we got the results back, 71% chose draft 2, which is what's in your packet. In that draft 2, it did say after the 13 stockpile days, we would do the virtual learning snow days. That way we're not adding on till the end of the calendar. So we were actually able to set, the end of the school year, graduation, and give some extended breaks. We don't have students starting as early. We will have an added break at Labor Day, so they'd have a 4-day weekend. And at Easter, we'd give an extra day, so they'd actually have a 5-day weekend. So 71% of the staff wanted draft 2, which is the one that we're asking for you to approve.
I glanced over that. Is there a fall break in that one?
There is,
Okay.
yes, there's a fall break,
Is it the second week of October?
second week of October.
And this year we keep it in.
I think I'm looking at the wrong.
Yeah, keep it there.
Mr. Long, Mr. Payne.
Yeah, I'm keeping it in.
It's October the 10th through the 14th.
Okay, do we have a motion?
Move we approve the calendar for school year 21-22,
Which draft?
22, 23.
or 22-23, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Yeah, that,
Draft 2 or 1?
Well, I only gave you all the
The-
one draft.
the one.
Okay,
Yeah.
draft 2.
the draft that we have.
All right. Have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a second. Ms. Reese, all right, any other discussion? All right, call the roll.
Mr. Long,
Yes.
Mr. Matheson,
Yes,
Mr. Payne,
Yes,
Ms. Reese,
Yes,
Mr. Carlton.
Yes. Next item is to approve the updated changes on the school calendar for Johnson County Schools for the 2021-2022 school year.
What I did is I went back and updated next year's school year to reflect the fact that after the 13 stockpile days, we would do virtual learning days, so we wouldn't have to add on to the end of the year. And again, putting those same long weekends, a 4-day weekend in September. It does have the fall break, 5 days at Easter. And we actually have school starting a little bit later, which I think parents will really appreciate. I've heard a lot of positives about having it start a little bit later. So we did have some more flexibility in being able to do that. So we're just asking for update for next year's calendar.
All right. Do we have a motion?
I'm trying to see what day, oh, okay, September. Yeah, we got two calendars here and I keep getting on
Yeah.
one.
Move we approve the updated changes to that calendar
Okay.
also.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Yeah, I'll second.
Have a second? Any more conversation on this? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Long,
Yes.
Mr. Matheson,
yes.
Mr. Payne,
Yes,
Ms. Reese,
yes,
Mr. Carlton.
Yes. All right, next item on the agenda is the ESSER 2.0 update.
Yes, and I'll turn this over to Ms. Will. She is overseeing ESSER 2.0, but I do want to let you all know that I was on a director's call yesterday, and they're getting ready to do an ESSER 3.0 that will come from the federal government. So just, we're estimated as a state of Tennessee, which could change, to get $2 billion. So we'll actually, if this happens, we'll be getting more money in ESSER 3.0. So we've already got some ideas for that in place, because you can maybe use that for more facility upgrades,
Yeah.
which would help.
And for anybody who's online, can you explain
What
ESSER?
ESSER is? ESSER is it was the CARES Act. So this is money they're giving us due to the fact that we were in a pandemic.
The letters stand for it. You have any idea? I did at one time. I don't now.
We just call it ESSER now.
ESSER,
Hold on an Angie.
estimated something.
and this is federal funds.
This is
Yes.
federal funds.
Yeah,
How much did we get last year?
We got 2.66 in ESSER 2.0. In the first one, we got,
700.
787,000.
yes, and then 2.0, we got 2.66 million. And then 3.0, we don't know yet, but it's going to be substantial.
Johnson County got 2.6 million.
2.66 million.
Yeah, that's kind of, I don't know, we haven't got it yet, but that's
No.
That's
proposed.
what we're applying.
We have to apply for
Apply
it.
for it.
It's the Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief Fund.
Yes. Elementary,
So-
secondary school.
Yeah, we buy, you can buy.
So could you do us a favor and next board meeting, give us kind of something on the screen that we can see that tells us where our 70,000 went and what you're proposing for the 2.6?
I can, I'll be happy to get that to you, but in your packet, there was a list of proposed things that we have actually, we met as a leadership team here at the district office, kind of compiled a list, and then we had a call and sent out a survey to administrators, and also got ideas and input from them on things that they feel like that they need in their building, and to support instruction, and also, things that they need as far as safety. It has to be, using these funds, it has to be directly related to COVID. So there are some things, for example, in your packet, you had a list of just a lot of the ideas that we're gonna be, putting in that budget. But, we can't have as many visitors in the building because, we're trying to keep, so many extra people from coming in and possibly exposing students and staff. So, like, at Mount City Elementary and the new entrance at Laurel, there's not an awning to cover that. So we're asking parents, to sometimes wait and be buzzed into the building, but there's not an awning when there's bad weather and rain, things like that. So we can use the funds, for things like that. So that, through this whole brainstorming, we've come up with a lot of good ideas, things that we really do need that will help to make our buildings safer. And then also, put some instructional supports in place to reduce learning loss and things like that. But that list is just, for you, the big thing, the top number one thing on our survey is that everybody wanted to finish the one-to-one initiative so that we will be full, every student will have a device. And then also to replace the smart boards. We've had those for quite some time now. Rob could probably tell you, probably 12 years, some of them.
I'd say 15.
When I got on the board in 2002, they were talking about finishing up, putting them in all the schools. So that was when they were finishing, so it was way before that.
Right. So replacing those interactive TVs, because a lot of them are not functioning properly. But replacing them with interactive TVs, which is just a newer technology. Also, in purchasing a laptop for each teacher, and so we're going to try to move away from putting a desktop computer in the classroom with a high functioning laptop, so that teachers can take that home, work from home in the event that we ever had to go back to virtual, or for virtual snow days, things like that. They would be able to have that device at home to be able to teach no matter where they're at. So those were some of the top things. Also, purchasing an ionization unit for every HVAC, or, well, Kirby, you might have to help me.
Every air return.
Every air return in the district. And so maintenance counted those, we would need 175. We also talked to you all about doing the bonus for employees for the extra duties and extra time work this year, so we've got that budgeted. Replacing the wireless access points. Time flies, and things get by you before you notice it. I thought that we had done that within the past 3 years. Rob let me know it's been more like 5.
It's actually been 7.
Okay,
Wow.
7 years since we have done that. So, replacing that so that with this new, with the one-to-one devices, that they work and they function, properly and at the best, capacity. And then, water fountains, replacing the water fountains with the water bottle refilling stations, things like that. So I won't continue to go down this list, but those were some of the big, the top things, replacing, putting some awnings in some places that we need, and to keep, visitors out of the weather and things like that.
Well, one of the things, and I know you gave us the list, and you did a good job explaining the top things, but like I say, the next meeting, if you can have that presentation, because people at home who watch this need to know what we're spending that money on and what ideas we have. So, thank you. Any questions of Dr. Simcox or Andy? All right, budget update. Tina.
And you do not have the financial packets for Mr. Robinson and myself because it's based on when the revenue was received, so he didn't get time to get those pulled together. But we do have the local option sales tax and the property tax collections. So first, taking a look at the sales tax collections, it was down $6,026 from last month, but up $38,356 from the same time last year. So sales tax has been running at a very positive number. Property tax collections were up $50,579 from last year. And that's all I got.
All right. Dr. Simcox.
Yes, you have your Head Start and pre-K information. Lori, do you have anything you want to add?
We're finally full. Finally got 120 kids in each slot, so that's been
we've tried really hard all year to get it full, but now we're full with Head Start and Pre-K both, so we're very proud of that. We usually full the first year, but it's took a while this year. U-Trust Special Teacher Appreciation Day is coming up March the 4th. Just a reminder that President's Day is an instructional day, so we will not be out of school Monday. There will be school Monday. Just a reminder on that. We do need to have a work session, and I gave you 3 dates because we not only do we need to discuss the ESSER funds, but we also need to discuss the BEP dollars that we got that was retroactive and what we're gonna do with those. Because we have to have an idea for that when Angie does her plan. So would either February the 16th, the 18th, or the 23rd at 5 work for you all? Or do you want me to have Serena send out an email and you all just get back with her?
Send out an email
Okay.
so we can all
Yeah.
check the calendar. Now, is that gonna count as the board retreat?
Well, the board retreat, that's something, I guess, to see how you all want to do this, because, we do have with the board retreat, we ask everyone to come in. Do we still want to do that now? Do we want to wait until the fall?
Well, we still, at that time, we still have to do
Your evaluation,
Our
and I don't,
evaluation.
and for board of distinction, and
your evaluation.
yes.
When is our deadline on the board retreat? When is it due by our?
Our
When did we have
evaluation.
it
We
last
always
year?
had it in March.
We've always had it in February and March, but then
Yeah.
I know some boards have theirs in July, some have them in August, so I don't know that there's, I think as long as it's
for
yearly.
board of distinction,
As
it
long
has
as you
to
get
be
them in that
each year.
2-year
Yeah.
cycle, like you gotta have one done each year,
Right.
sometime.
So would you prefer to us to wait when we can be in a normal situation, or?
Well, probably. One thing I would like to do our director evaluation separate from the board retreat.
Board retreat.
Okay.
Yeah, we talked about that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
And just have a director evaluation, just so we can talk about that. And I like to do that, different than March. Because what we need to do, in my opinion, we need to tell our director, the board needs to let the director know what direction she's going. And then not have a vote on a contract the next month, because she don't have time to, be directed, I guess, for a better term.
Yeah, I appreciate
So
that.
I would like to, and I think from one of the classes we took, I think it was, I forget what class it was, they suggested doing it right before school starts. I think if we did it right when school started, you'd be overwhelmed.
Mhm.
So I think we need to do it like the month or a few weeks before school starts, if that pleases the board.
That's fine with me.
We'll
Is
have
that okay?
Serena take care of that.
So
But as far
February,
as the work session and the board retreat, that's fine with me. And
So-
the board evaluation,
Yeah, we have. to
it's
sort
up
of
to
do
you
that.
guys. I don't
Which a
care.
board evaluation you can sort of do on your own and mailing if that's you like, but,
But there's a self-evaluation for yourself as a
Right.
board member too.
right.
so we've got the February dates you're gonna send us, and that's for a work session.
That's for work session for ESSER and BEP dollars.
Okay, so board retreat, could we look at April? When we hopefully will be a little bit more over a lot of this, and we've got the spring, and would April be a suitable time? And we can shoot out some dates? and
Sure.
Yeah, I think
If
so.
we can come up with kind of an agenda and put it in a place where, we have the ability to spread out,
We'll go back up to the high school.
okay? So we'll
I'll
shoot
have,
out some dates for us and some agenda items, and then let us have a chance to comment on them, and
okay.
give us several different dates, so everybody will
Yeah,
have a chance to
that's
look
fine.
at their calendars and all.
Serena and I will work on that tomorrow.
All right.
And then just 2 more quick little items. Just a Chromebook update. Rob let me know that this afternoon they've delivered over 970 devices to schools. So the majority are in the schools. They just lack some at Mountain City and Rome Creek. So I will tell you, those 3 guys have been working so hard. I will say that's probably one thing that the snow helped. They were able to get all those done. So, just want to thank them because Rob, Joseph, and Norm have done a great job in that. Want to say thank you to our healthcare workers, especially those that have been working the vaccine sites. Herbie and I took a subway tray to them today. That was Herbie's idea. I thought that was a great idea because we just wanted to say thank you for everything you've done. They have vaccinated you know, a lot of our employees and staff, and they were in the rain today doing it. So we do appreciate everything that they do. And again, I just want to say thank you on my behalf for the confidence, and I really do appreciate it. I love the school system. I love the staff. I love the students. We have a great school system. So thank you again.
Is Lisa Fruit coming back to work for us?
She is actually doing a leave at Dr. Long's school at Rome Creek.
Doing what?
Yeah, she's doing kindergarten.
Kindergarten?
Teaching kindergarten.
Bless your heart.
Oh, my goodness.
Well, we're glad to have her back.
Yeah.
Hated to lose her. All right. Gary, you have anything you want to bring up?
I'd just like to thank all the teachers for the hard work they're doing during this pandemic we went through. Since Beijing Biden's went in office, you'll see this COVID thing go downhill now.
All right. Mr. Payne?
Just a couple things. One, I guess, is a question. What about the robotics team? Are they doing anything yet?
They are. They just competed.
I think she mentioned that, but I couldn't hear. My hearing's going
Yeah,
back.
they competed.
So
and I
how's
know
that going?
they're getting ready to go somewhere else, aren't they, Herbie? Yeah, but I know that they competed a week or two ago and they won in their competition.
Oh, good. How many teams do we have now?
Now that I'm not.
I think 2 at the high school, 2 at the middle.
I
think I heard.
I've not
somebody
heard
say
much
that.
about the middle school team, so I don't know that they've got to be as active as they were in the past.
Down, participation.
You think that's due to the
For
COVID?
all
Yes.
intents and purposes, it's the same as it was.
Okay.
Then I got one more thing. I know was seen on the ESSER where we're getting some money. We're looking at technology, and you know, it don't have to be next month or the next 2 months, but in the next coming months, can we do a update on the technology team, and let's talk about where we're going and what the plans are for technology?
Yeah. Mr. Sutherland oversees the technology team, so we'll be
Just
happy
whenever-
with that.
You guys get something put together and have time. That's all I got.
Okay, Ms. Reese?
I would just like to, as always, thank everybody for everything that you've done. I know it's been a hard year, but I appreciate everything that you do.
It's the same thing. I mean, we struggle every day, and I'm so thankful that you guys have got the education to do that. You know, we get to hear the praises and see the results, and we just thank y'all for that, or I do.
How many do we have on we have 2 online schools, one in-house and one
Yes.
that is a statewide in-house school?
So actually, Jessie sent me those numbers this evening. She must have read your mind. The Johnson County online, Pearson, we have 6. For the other one, we have 274 in the K-8, with 26 in the approved stage waiting to get in. For the high school, there's 69 enrolled with 6 in the approved stage. So
And that is the Pearson Online?
that's the Pearson online.
So the funds that they're supposed to give us will be at the end of the year, based on their numbers?
We actually got the 60,000 that they owed us. We received that.
We received the 60,000 that they promised. And I suppose they'll look at the numbers towards the end to see if there's any kind of increase.
2-year guarantee.
Now, what do you do, put that in the school funds?
Well, actually, it went into the GP, but then we get a bill from Pearson for services. So it actually, what we have to put back in the program, it kind of washes out.
Are we paying for our students or paying for the statewide?
We actually, the BEP will be receiving funds from those students, and that's statewide students. So they actually bill us for statewide students, but the BEP hasn't changed yet to reflect that.
Right, so they've not given us additional dollars based on these numbers yet.
Yes.
Okay, so.
So they gave us the 60 that was promised up front, but then they have billed us for students that are already in the numbers but haven't been recognized by the state.
So when will you get the final? Is that the end of this school year?
We're hoping May, you know, again, this is a learning stage for us.
Do we have any correspondence with them?
Yes.
Regularly?
Yes.
We can talk and ask
Yes, we have a
questions?
call with them next Tuesday, so,
Okay.
yes.
So at a certain point, when you find out, and that may be at the end of the school year, but when you find out, would you ask them to come back and then you present it to the board so we can see how this first year went?
Yes, we'd be
Because
happy
they made
to.
a lot of good promises. We want to see that those promises have been
Carry
met.
through, yeah.
Right. We do too, so that's a great idea.
All right. I just want to, again, thank everybody for their hard work. And that goes from the top all the way down. And I know there's a lot of janitors cleaning schools and a lot of school bus drivers taking care of their buses and keeping us in school COVID-free. Again, I can't impress on enough. Every time you turn on the TV and watch the news and they're talking about all these places where people won't go to school, I just want to say thank you. Y'all have done a fantastic job, and we appreciate it so that we can stay in school. I think that's one of the most important things we could do.
I second that.
Thank you. Next time we meet and when we have our meeting, if you could give us an update on your meeting with the legislature,
I will be happy to.
what was discussed by you as well as the other superintendents. And also, if you could, next time, give us a report on the ESSER funds.
And we will. And by then, she will have to have done her application. So
Okay.
we'll have more specifics that
Okay.
we can give you.
That's good, because I think, and again, I know it's good to have it in our packets, but for folks at home who want to watch this, and I've had a lot of positive comments on the online portion, because people can see it and hear it for themselves.
And
We'd
we'll
like
have
a
a-
full explanation of that.
We'll have a
Because that's a lot of
PowerPoint.
money that's coming to Johnson
Yes.
County. We appreciate it. All right. Anything that we need to add? Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, we're adjourned.